And with that very, very gracious dismount of the camera, welcome to the Weege Show. That's my son Lane, pounding out motos as we prepare for the Ricky Carmichael Daytona Amateur Supercross coming your way Sunday and Monday. But I think the event's already sold out, but I don't know, try to get in an alternate list. Anyway, let's talk Weege Show. Let's talk race tech suspension. If you want your suspension to be softer, better bottoming resistance, more traction, and you admire made and engineered in the USA craftsmanship and quality, go to racetech.com and make sure my camera's clean. You jumped the jump. Yeah. Were you pumped on that? Yeah, the GoPro brings out the best in everybody. Here, I'm gonna show you our Jakey setup. I got 2 minis and 1 stand. So we're gonna lean, the one bike gets the other, I got it. Let's talk the Arlington Supercross. In a moment, we'll send it out to a very chilly Arlington, Texas, with Kellen Brauer for the Weege Show, and he'll get into the nitty-gritty of our Triple Crown format and the never-ending battle, it appears, between Cooper Webb, Eli Tomac, and Chase Sexton. You can never quite figure out who's the best of that group, and that's really the theme I want to go with here. That's the best part about this. I've done a lot of stories, videos, podcasts. I still type about how the first 2 rounds of Monster Energy Supercross every year, they don't really mean much. We've seen crazy weirdo winners, speed that doesn't apply to the rest of the season. Guys that struggled in the first 2 races end up being the best at times. It's really that 3 to 5 range where you really see the cream rise to the top, which is cool because those make for exciting races at rounds 3 through 5. But then by here, 6, 7, you kind of know who the best guy is. Not this year. Arlington was a perfect situation. I don't think it proved anything. Tomac had his moments, Sexton had his moments, Webb had his moments, and kind of the same moments that we've seen, right? If Tomac starts it right, which they've been very good this year, they continue to be on point, he can win. Sexton still has speed. He was able to catch Tomac at times, but he fell again. I mean, look, we're looking at it this way. He did not crash at Anaheim 1, but he did pace and jump while leading. He crashed in the heat race at San Diego. He didn't crash at Houston, he just wasn't good enough to get Tomac at the end, but the majority of the races he had crashes, and we saw more this time. It is the craziest thing. So this theme of, can Sexton figure out the crashes? Can Tomac seal the deal and go into a dominant win streak? Neither one has quite been able to nail it. And then there's Webb, who had no business winning this race. I don't feel like he even rode phenomenally well, and late in the final main event, he's in like 5th, and I'm like, well, yeah, there's no way Webb is winning this, and then somehow he won it. And we always wonder with Cooper Webb how much of it is luck and making your own luck. I mean, look, he didn't have to pass Anderson or Barsha or Sexton. They all fell. But maybe being strong late in the race, you very, very rarely also see Webb have problems with missing a line or tipping over or washing the front end. He must have a 6th sense of where the traction is and the other guys crash. Maybe it makes him look lucky at times, or maybe he's good, or maybe it's better to be lucky than good. But my overarching theme here is that how great is it that we are 7 rounds deep in this championship and we still don't know. I'm sure you guys in the comments have your opinion on who's going to win this title out of those 3, but there is definitely not clear-cut evidence. And somehow he didn't move 1 percentage point in Arlington. It didn't change the narrative at all. It's just as good going to Daytona, where we know obviously Tomac is great. So honestly, even if Tomac wins that one, we'll probably say, well, that was just Daytona. It doesn't prove that Sexton and Webb can't win this title. Kind of like I said, if Sexton had won the Triple Crown, it doesn't prove that Sexton's the best guy, because he's still got to do it in a 20+1. And I thought Webb would be bad at the Triple Crown, but it fell literally right to him. So that's, I think, is cool. Now for me today, taking the kid riding, one other thing I want to mention before I send it to Kellen. You guys at home, you guys who ride, especially if you have a kid at home and you ride, I mean, that is a monumental task. And my respect level already was so high for the sport. I mean, we all know that riding a dirt bike is the gnarliest thing you can do. And the guys at the highest level are the absolute heroes, the gladiators of our day. But the effort that it takes to pursue this sport as a hobby with a kid is just unbelievable. So here's what I face myself with every Sunday. I do not want to go riding. I do not want to go in the garage. Adjust chains, clean air filters, figure out, most importantly for me, I'm a disorganized mess in life. I don't want to have to figure out, do we have all the gear for both of us and all the tools and all the parts and all the things we need? I don't want to have to do that. And I have to do that or we don't go riding, and I don't get many opportunities. I did not go to Arlington. This was my chance to go riding. So we had to do it. How was it?
It was good, man.
It's good. All right.
Yeah.
Good. You good? Was it fun? Yeah. good day. This is East Bend MX, by the way, about an hour north of Charlotte. Thanks to them for having us today. One sec, I gotta take this neck brace off because it's getting late and we gotta start packing up. But the packing up is really the theme. It is so hard to do it in the sport as far as packing all the gear, the snacks, the drinks, not forgetting things, enough toys for them to play in that sandbox over there between sessions, 2 bikes I gotta have prepped, the electric bike and the two-stroke, because they'll race both classes at Daytona. It is gnarly. And then to get your own stuff, I mean, I rode for 22 minutes today. That was a lot of work to ride for 22 minutes. The good thing about motocross is 22 is all I need or all I want. Certainly all my arms needed, but it is a gnarly sport, and it's this best of times, worst of times thing that happens every Sunday morning or Saturday when it's time to go riding. I hate every part of it. I hate packing the gear, working on the bikes, the amount of hours when you look at, I probably spent 2 hours getting ready and an hour driving to the track. That's 3 hours for me to ride for 20 minutes. I mean, that is straight dumb. But look at the smile. There is nothing more fun than this. So I'm gonna be like this the next Sunday when I'm like, why am I doing this? I would love to have one relaxing Sunday at home for once in my life where I just sit on the couch and watch TV. And then we go riding and I question why I did it, and then I do it and it's the greatest thing ever. It's like this weirdo addiction where the opposite of like where you're like, I need that fix, I need that fix. It's like, why do I even want to do this? And then when you're done, you're like, I get it. And by tomorrow, I'll wish that I could do it all again and they'll be back to work. Respect to everyone who does this. This is a difficult sport to get into. Don't take it for granted. Now let's send it out to Kellen Brauer to get to the nitty gritty from Arlington.
Almost the same team in the 450 class as Eli Tomac had the lead, had the win all the way up until the very last few laps of the race, crashes it away all by himself out front in the lead, falls all the way back to 6th in the end on that 3rd race. But of course this is a Triple Crown, so it kind of salvages his night a little bit. Even though he got 6th in the 3rd race, he still ends up 3rd overall. And suddenly this 450 class has a super tight points race. We have Eli up 2 on Cooper Webb, who gets the win tonight. Red Bull KTM's Cooper Webb right here. And 5 up on Chase Sexton, who gets 2nd overall in the night. And it was just it was a wild night, really. Like, all 3 races provided some sort of spectacular moment. The first race, you got Chase Sexton coming from pretty far back and getting all the way, because he ran over Jason Anderson in the first corner, by the way, and then getting all the way up to 3rd. And then the second race, he was trying to pass those guys. Jason Anderson kind of took off with the win. Sexton got close to Cooper Webb. He straight up passed Eli Tomac, but doesn't get all the way to Webb to pass him. And then they're all separated by 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, points going into the final race. So it's kind of whoever wins the last one, and Webb wins the last one. He comes up and catches Sexton late in that one after Sexton already had a fall. Then Tomac has a fall. And golly, man, it's just like these Triple Crowns continue to pack more and more punch to them every single week. And I don't even know how to encapsulate it all. It's just fantastic to watch as a fan. Obviously, these guys don't necessarily super love it because it's very intense. You know, the 450 class, they end up going 36 total minutes, whereas, you know, their 450 main events are normally just that 20 minutes plus a lap. So to go to 36 minutes can be a little bit grueling, and it's not necessarily that, you know, it's a lot longer because they still do a heat race and everything, but it's that pace, that intensity, and doing it 3 times and 3 starts. And you can tell in interviewing some of these guys after the races I just did here, they're tired, they're gassed, like they feel like they exerted a lot of energy to get through tonight's racing. And this track didn't necessarily do any favors. The whoops broke down again. You got a Dragon's back onto a table that guys are trying to figure out. Talked to Colt Nichols about that, and he just said he never really felt comfortable all day, but he did say that the way that it changed, it was kind of hard to predict what was going to be the good line or what was going to be the bad line, especially on the Dragon's back. The 3rd main, they were going, you know, inside and then kind of rolling, tripling up, and then jumping onto the table. But a lot of the day they were actually hitting it like a whoop section going up the Dragon's back. So kind of like a mismatch of different things. But here we are at the Honda rig, and also, you know, Hunter Lawrence continues to lead the championship, but it was a wild night in the 250 class. Like I said, Nate Thrasher gets the win for Star Racing, but it wasn't without a lot of other chaos happening with you know, Hunter Lawrence going down in the first turn of the last race. Nate Thrasher actually crashed on the last race in the lead and crashed back to 3rd place and still won the overall. Jeremy Martin, he gets his first Triple Crown race win since 2018. Talked to him a little bit about after the race, and he was very excited to be back kind of in the winner's circle to some degree. It wasn't exactly a full race victory. He still wants to get a full race victory under his belt, but to get a win again, just to cross the finish line, jump first. He even said after the race, he didn't know he crossed the finish line first. He looked up at the board and said, holy smokes, that's my name atop the board. So just goes to show how crazy these things are, that even when you're winning the race, the final race of the night, you don't even know you're winning because there's so much other stuff going on, and it's, this guy's doing math in their head and trying to figure it out. And Jordan Smith even said that he thought getting to Thrasher was for the overall, and they were going back and forth and this whole thing, and man, it was crazy. Smith crashed twice, I think, in the last race. Got together with Moseman, who tipped over into the tunnel. There's just too much to talk about. There really is. Like, this is what these Triple Crowns do. They provide content upon content upon content, and then you just kind of don't know what the real storyline is from the night. Is it the fact that this 450 race is maybe as tight as it's ever been between 3 guys through 7 rounds of a championship, and we're going to Daytona, where normally that is where the trend kicks into place? Like, in the past, Ricky Carmichael has always said the series starts at Daytona, but the reality is normally the series is kind of over by Daytona, right? Like, by the time we get to Daytona, someone has established themselves as the guy, and we don't really have the guy in the 450 class yet. So maybe this year the series really does start at Daytona, and we're going to Daytona next week, right on the heels of a Triple Crown that, like I said, man, it packed all the punches you could possibly deliver. Jason Anderson here, he gets a win in the second race, which is kind of similar back to Anaheim too, I guess, to some degree. But just, yeah, the speed all day, never really converted on exactly, I think, what he wanted out of tonight, but still had a pretty good ride overall, so I think he's pretty satisfied with it. And then, man, I don't know what else. Ken Roxon, after a tough week in Oakland, rebounds really well. He was in a position to maybe even win the overall going into the final race, but things needed to maybe fall a little bit more his way. He didn't have the best final race, but he still was in the mix all night long. I think he ends up 5th overall on the night. I talked to Aaron Plessinger at Red Bull KTM. He was 6th overall, and he felt that he rode just as good as he has these other few weeks where he went 4-3-4, and he ends up 6th overall. But again, Triple Crowns, man, like, if you have one bad race, which he said this first race wasn't exactly what he wanted, it just throws everything for a loop and a little bit of a spin. And if you don't have that consistent results, then you just fall down the order, and he ends up 6th overall. So, man, just a lot of pack punched into one kind of short night of racing. Also got to talk about Supercross Futures as I walk through the Supercross Futures side of the pits. We got the NSA Yamaha team right here. We have the kind of the KTM Orange Brigade rig over there. Of course, Julian Bomer, Preston Baseflug riding for Orange Brigade, but real story again was Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing. I mean, they almost, like I said with Tomac, had a clean sweep tonight. Tomac, if he would have won that final race, would have won the overall in the 450 class. Thrasher wins the overall in the 250 class, and Daxton Bennick once again wins Supercross Futures, just like he did at 8-2. Whole shot, led wire to wire in that thing. I mean, there's not much more else to say other than he looks good, man. He looks arguably pro ready, and he's going to keep rolling along with these Supercross Futures races, but he looks good. And, that's a positive development for Star, and as they continue to, have a ton of riders over there, but more riders moving out of the class. Justin Cooper, Christian Craig, Colt Nichols, recent graduates to the 450 class. Cooper will be racing outdoors for them on a 250, of course, but he's 450 Supercross for life now because he's pointed out of the series. So, they need to have that kind of backfill behind the Kitchens and the Robertsons and Thrashers and Jordan Smiths and stuff like that of continued success, and Bennick showing that that can be a sustained level for Star. So that's an exciting prospect for them as they continue to develop talent and make better career moves for these guys. Bennick moving over there at the end of last year. Yeah, I mean, the Futures race was kind of the most boring part of the night because everything else was chaotic and hectic, and we had multiple different winners, and this 450 race is as close as it's going to get, and that's exciting for us fans. Daytona, maybe the series starts at Daytona. Maybe that's the whole theme of this, right? We get a Triple Crown, we get 2 chaotic rounds already from Triple Crowns before we even get to Daytona, and now we're going to Daytona with 5 points between the top 3. And even that, like they were talking about on the Race Day Live broadcast today, that this could feel a little bit like the Stu, Carmichael, and Reed days, right? Unfortunately, the difference is, back in those days, Stu, Carmichael, Reed, it was those 3 guys and then a cliff. This is not that case. This is Jason Anderson winning in the middle of a Triple Crown, and this is, Ken Roxon looking great, and this is Christian Craig being a challenger, and you know, Aaron Plessinger being in the mix, and there's other guys that can get up there and kind of spoil the party a little bit, which makes it not such a runaway series for Tomac, Webb, and Sexton, even though they finished on the podium again tonight. It seems like that's kind of the trend, but still, like, there's other guys getting in the mix, and that's kind of making it, I think, even that little bit more exciting. So I know Jason Weigandt, who runs this Weege show, always says, you know, we're living in some good days right now, and we really should soak it in while we can, and I agree with that theory. We have some great racing, another great night of racing here at AT&T Stadium. I mean, this thing is huge behind me. This freaking stadium is massive. Wow, a lot of fun. Triple Crowns, I like, as a fan, I love them. Obviously for these guys, they don't really like them. I was indifferent for a while, but I'm just coming around to them more and more, because how can you not love how much action this race gave us tonight? So many storylines. I'm trying to remember if I covered everything at this point in time. I've been walking around the pits. I know Jason Weigandt was going to be in the press conference and he wasn't, so I'm not sure what he's been able to say for you guys before this, but I'm going to send you guys on your way, because we've already walked around for 10 minutes and talked about so much, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come this week that we will continue talking about as we go into Daytona. So thank you to Race Tech Suspension for backing the Weege show here. Get your gold valves, get your suspension redone, just change your oil, whatever you need to do, Race Tech is there for you. They do engine work as well, so thanks so much to them for supporting the Weege show. Kellen Brauer here at AT&T Stadium, sending you guys on your way. Maybe I'm sending it back to Weege, maybe I'm sending it to nobody, but thanks guys for tuning in, and we will see you next week in Daytona.